Greetings. Welcome to another broadcast of I Have a Testimony. I'm your host, Brother Willie Muhammad.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
Today, brothers and sisters, we are continuing our series of interviewing members of the student ministry class in the Southwest region, also known as the Southwest region. Last week we had two brothers, but now we have two additional brothers who are part of this ministry under the leadership of our student regional minister, Brother Dr. Abdul Halim Muhammad. Today, who we have joining us is our brother who's the student coordinator of a city known as Texarkana. He's Brother James Muhammad. In addition to Brother James, who's a study group coordinator of the Texarkana study group, we have our brother William X, who's the student coordinator of the Homer Study Circle. And a study circle is that stage of development right before you become a study group, and a study group you go into the mosque. But as I said, both of these brothers are helpers under the leadership of our student regional minister, Brother Abdul Halim Muhammad, who we see here in this video.
Look at all the statistics as it relates to black people, and you ask yourself the question, that sounds impossible. Huh? That's why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had the most difficult job that any man has ever had, because he has to take a people who are dead in all aspects of life that you consider life. We are dead. And the only value we have in this world is sport and play and song and dance, but they don't see us as a serious people. It is very difficult for people who have this preoccupation with owning private property to respect the people they once owned this property. It's in their DNA. They can't help it. This is why they hate Sylvester Turner, and this is why they hate Barack Obama. They can't see themselves following no black man nowhere. And they don't like it when black men outsmart them. They can't stand it. It makes them crazy. It makes them, as they say, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Wow. So, Assalamu alaikum, my brother.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
And Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak Kareem, sir.
So we thank you for giving us the opportunity to have you as a guest on the show. And if you watch the show, I like to jump straight until the interview. So my first question is this: one of the benefits of doing this show is that I and my audience have the opportunity to hear the marvelous personal journeys of our guests concerning how they came to the Nation of Islam, So with that being said, can you share with us your personal story? How did you first hear about the teachings and then become a member?
Yes, sir. All praise is due to Allah. I actually first had contact with the Nation of Islam prior to 75 as a child. I was blessed to live 2 blocks from the student minister, the minister at that time, who came from Shreveport, Louisiana. He owned a bakery 2 blocks from my home. So I frequented that bakery, and I talked to one of the pioneers, and he said that was our minister, Minister Franklin X. And so that was my first contact with the Nation of Islam as a child. And I also remember the MGT would come to the local playground, and they would pass out fruit to the children. So I had a very positive view of the Nation of Islam. But I joined the Nation of Islam in 1993. I purchased the Final Call newspaper on the corner. It was 13th and Bowie. It's a very popular block here in the city where the FOI distributed the Final Call newspaper. And one of the brothers I worked with, his name was Jerry X. We worked at a furniture company. I built furniture for quite a few years, and the brother invited me to a study group meeting.
You
I
still
can
there?
continue on, Brother
Oh,
Minister.
definitely. Yeah, continue on.
Okay. So I was invited to a study group meeting. It was actually a home study group on Friday night. And ironically, it was hosted by two believers who are from New Orleans, Brother James and Sister Yolanda.
Wow.
Yeah, yes. And they made a great and mighty impression on me about the lifestyle of Muslims and the content of the teachings. I think the first 6 months, I may have missed study group twice because I was also a college student. So I may have missed study group twice in 6 months. So the study group aspect attracted me to the Nation of Islam. And, and it was a growth process since that time. And it's been 30 years, like I said, 1993.
Mm. Wow. And do you remember any specific aspect of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad that caught your attention?
Yes, thank you for saying that. While at study group, Brother James and Sister Yolanda had a photo on the wall, and I asked the question. I said, "Who is that?" And they said, "That's God in person." And so most of us live our lives wanting to know the true identity of God, and so that began my journey to find out who is God. And as I mentioned, I came to study group every Friday night. Matter of fact, I was typically the first person at study group. And ironically, Brother James and Sister Yolanda lived a half a block from me. So I walked to study group every Friday night.
Wow. And that's
Yes, sir.
amazing, man, because Brother James and Sister Yolanda are in our mosque right now. They may still
Yeah,
even be here as the believers get ready for the prayer service. But I'm gonna make sure I mention this to them and make sure that they see this video, right? So you
please.
kind of giving us the history there because I see that they played a part. And that leads me into my next question is
Yeah.
that what can you share with us about how the history that you know of Islam there in the city of Texarkana?
Yes, sir. And like I said, I consider myself a student of history. And so, history is best qualified to reward research. I know that around 1970, four brothers came from Muhammad Mosque number 30 in Kansas City.
Mm,
Two of the brothers, Texarkana was their hometown, and those two brothers were Raymond X. Stanley and his brother Alec X. Stanley, who's now known as Basil Rashid. And they were in Kansas City, Missouri, Muhammad Mosque number 30, um, under Minister Nathaniel Muhammad. And the brother said they would say to Minister Nathaniel, share all the racism that they had experienced in their hometown. And he said, brother, y'all should go back and make it right. So those two brothers, Raymond X. Stanley and Alec X. Stanley, they came down with two other FOI, and they established somewhat of an FOI house, and they pushed the Muhammad Speaks nearly every day of the week, according to Brother Alec. And after several months, they invited Minister Nathaniel from Kansas City down to Texarkana, where he came down and he spoke at a Masonic lodge. And shortly after that time, they established what is similar to a study group. They were not a registered mosque. And at that time, Minister Franklin came from Shreveport, and Brother George Muhammad, who is in Shreveport currently, he came down as the first secretary, student secretary. Yes, sir.
thing that you're speaking about, if I'm not mistaken, that is the one of the sons of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, right?
Yes, sir, that is correct. Minister Nathaniel Muhammad is one of the sons of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And
Wow.
so Brother Raymond was his driver. And so he got a chance to know Minister Nathaniel. And, so they shared various aspects of the teachings with him. And that's what he commissioned them to come back to their hometown and establish Islam in their hometown. And so
Mm,
I'm grateful for those believers who established Islam in this city. And we're thankful to still be here and building on the work that they established.
beautiful.
Yes, sir.
And now we're talking about that. You, in the work that you've been doing, makes you a part of the history as well. And you are the
Yes.
student coordinator of the Texarkana Study Group. So, what can you share with us as it relates to how you became the student coordinator?
Yes, sir. First, I'll share my history of serving in the labor. I initially, in 1993, I became the student recorder or student secretary. And actually, the first thing I think of, I was actually present in the first laborers meeting that our student regional minister, Abdul Halim Muhammad, the first laborers meeting that he gave as the regional minister. I was blessed to be a part of that. And something that he said during that laborers meeting has laid a base for me to be able to grow as a student in the labor and as a believer. One thing that he said during his first laborers meeting as the student regional minister, he said, keep Master Farad Muhammad first. Make Master Farad Muhammad the center of all of your activities and you'll be successful. So I personally try to use that as a gauge as to where I am in my life, and that's where I fall back. That's where we have to hold on to, is our faith in Master Farad Muhammad and his messenger, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, our Messiah and our Miss. Yes, sir.
Say have been some of the most profound lessons you have learned, while serving in this capacity?
Some of the most profound lessons that I've learned is perseverance, number one.
Hmm.
Again, I mentioned I started out as a student secretary, and then in 1995, a few months before the Million Man March, I was the student coordinator for the first time. And so it was a challenging experience. It was a beautiful experience. We were able to bring from the city of Texarkana, even being a smaller city, we brought 33 men to the Million Man March. And so that was one of the great historical achievements of the city, to be a part of the Million Man March. And in 1997, we were blessed to have Student Minister Lee, who at the time was the assistant minister at Mosque number 48. He came to Texarkana and was with us, served for 3 years as the student coordinator prior to going to Fort Worth at Muhammad Mosque 52. And so after that time, I became the student coordinator again. It was a great experience to learn from Student Minister Lee as he laid a great base for study in the city. So perseverance is the greatest lesson, and to just adhere and obey and follow the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, brother. Those are the keys to success that I feel that I have had and hope to have in the future, based on those, the obedience and the perseverance, sir.
Me to a line. Now, you've mentioned the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, which gives me a great segue into this next question. When you talk about the minister, what could you testify of as it relates to the impact that he has had and is having on your life?
Yes, sir. Dear brother, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, and he was speaking of the minister, he says, wherever he says go, go. And he says, wherever he says stay from, stay from. And I just use that statement briefly to describe what I've gotten from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and what we get from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and that is perfect guidance. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I can personally give a personal testimony, has never guided me in error or in wrong. Any success that I've been a part of is due to the guidance and the following of the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So I, next to Allah and his Christ, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I'm most grateful for the guidance that he's given. Praise due to Allah.
So you're still there in the city of Texarkana, and you're there and you're working. What are some of the things, some of the goals, aspirations that you all have, or the vision for the city?
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. We recently have started one of our goals, and that was to open a study circle. We recently opened a study circle in Paris, Texas. Texarkana is not a very big city. It's one of the smaller cities in the Southwest region. So it's important for us to utilize the metropolitan area. The city in itself is probably about 65,000 people, but the metropolitan area is 160,000 people. So it's very important that we set up study circles in the surrounding areas, and this will help us to grow and inshallah one day become a registered mosque in the Nation of Islam. So we're focused on study group. This is the message that our student regional minister Abdul Halim Muhammad is impressing. It's study group, because that's what helps us to grow as believers, internalize the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So, and our name says it best, Texarkana Study Group. So that's our focus, dear beloved brother.
And when you say, you talk about the benefit of study group, can you elaborate on some more how, for someone who's watching this, who is not a member of the Nation of Islam, how would you explain to them how study group could be a personal benefit?
Well, to someone who's listening, most of our family out there, you're Christians and you've been to Bible study. And so in study group, we read, it's also known as our temple reading class. And so we go over, most of the study guides are based on lectures of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So we read and clear every word that we read. We have a dictionary, we'll have a Bible, Quran, and references that'll help us to understand every word that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is saying. And every member of the study group, which is in a circle, has an opportunity to express their view on what they've heard or how they have understood the reading. And so it's a growth process. There's no wrong answer. And it gives each and every individual in the circle an opportunity to grow.
And this is a question that I always ask many of the guests here. The show is titled, I Have a Testimony, right?
Yes, sir.
And if you had the opportunity to stand before the world and testify of a quality of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, what quality would you choose to testify about?
Wow, what quality? The first quality and the greatest quality would have to be love. As the scripture said, love ye one another, as I have also loved you. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the embodiment of love. If love was a person, you show a photo of love, it would be a photo of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so our study group, Texarkana Study Group, we try to embody love towards each and every believer, guest that we have in our study group. It's a family atmosphere. We know each other's families, and there's a true brother-sister bond. While in Chicago at one of the Savior's Days, I think I was picking up some registrations once, and a sister, I gave her our city, Texarkana, Texas, and she said, "Oh, I remember those believers." She said, "Those believers reminded me of the believers in the first rise." And so, man, that was a great compliment. And I just think it's the following the example of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and showing love first to one another and to ourselves.
And where, for those people who are watching this interview, if they wanted to get in contact or even come out and visit the study group there, how could they do so?
Yes, sir. That's a great question. We're located at 500 Reading Avenue, and it's in the Beverly community of Texarkana, Texas. So it's 500 Reading Avenue, Texarkana, Texas, and that's our location. Wednesday nights at 7:30, Friday nights at 7:30. Right now, during the holy month of Ramadan, we're on a different schedule, so that schedule is 6:30 to 7:30. And so those are the regular times for Wednesday night and Friday night. And then on Sundays at 10 a.m. Again, that address is 500 Reading Avenue, just like Reading Railroad, Texarkana, Texas.
Mm.
Yes, sir.
And as we have a few more minutes, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan recently delivered another historic Savior's Day address titled the War of Armageddon. If you can, what were some of your takeaways and highlights for you from that uh, lecture?
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. It signifies that it's a time for each of us to assess ourselves and make peace with God, make peace in our communities, and join on to our own. Because as we can see around the world, wars are taking place. Um, the American dollar is falling. Everything is in a critical state right now. And so, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has said, the war of Armageddon has started. So it's important that we as a Black community realize that we are in a state of emergency. So we need to really use this time to focus on building our communities to be safer places to live.
And you know, I've never had the opportunity to visit Texarkana. What is it like as a city? What's the atmosphere as it relates to the Black community there?
Yes, sir. Well, we hope in due time, Student Minister Willie, that you would be able to visit. And thank you for that photo, because that photo where it shows the federal courthouse and one side is Texas and the other side is Arkansas. It's more than just a border. You have two states with two different laws there. And so it drastically affects the quality of life at times of the people. For instance, in Texas, the minimum wage is $7.50. In Arkansas, it's $11. That may not seem like a lot of money, but to our poor and struggling people, that's a big difference. When Obamacare was initially passed, the poor people in Arkansas could get insurance, but the poor people in Texarkana, Texas, they couldn't get insurance. And so there was a picture in, I believe it was the snowstorm we had in 2021, where they showed there was snow on the streets in Texarkana, Texas, but the streets on Texarkana, Arkansas side were clean. And I made people aware that this is more symbolic than the snow. It's the quality of life of the people, and particularly how it affects poor people in various ways with the different laws in the two states. But it's my hometown. So it's indeed a pleasure to serve the people in a community that I grew up in. I'm a great studier of genealogy, and I can trace my family back to my great-great-grandfather, who was a slave about 30 miles from here. So it's indeed an honor and a pleasure to share a teaching that gives life to the people here in Texarkana and the surrounding metropolitan areas. So
Wow.
thank you.
Yeah, that has to be something, man, to be able to trace your history and find out about your I think you said your great grandfather,
Great-great-grandfather.
great great grandfather, and it made me think about your family. How did they respond when you accepted Islam?
Well, like most of our families, they wonder if you're sane at the time. Um, I had a brother who lived in Houston at the time, so he was familiar with the teachings, and he moved back to Texarkana as our parents were getting older, and so he lived with me temporarily, and so the family liked that setup because they wanted somebody to find out what was going on with me. So my brother lived with me, and so he would notice various books, and he noticed I listened to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan every morning. And so my brother said, "Who is that you listen to every morning?" I said, "Oh, that's the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and sometimes the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad." So one day while I was at work, my brother opened the message to the Black man. And when I came home, he said, "We need to talk." And now he's a registered believer as well. So all praise is due to Allah. The teachings have had an impact, a great impact on my family. particularly the younger people. While many may not be registered believers, they claim Islam as their religion. And to see the impact, personal impact on my family, I'm very grateful to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And it makes the sacrifices that we make worth it when we can see our family acting on the teachings. I have several family members who are practicing Ramadan. You know, they're not registered believers, but they're practicing Ramadan. So our example matters. So our sacrifice is never in vain because we're all role models and we have somebody who's following us, who's watching you. So whether you're a registered believer or not, there's somebody watching you and they're depending on your success as they gauge and measure what they're able to do. So if you make it, then they know that they can make it. So thank you.
Praise be to Allah. And thank you, my
Yes.
brother, for you really have a great, like you said, I can tell you are a student of history, and I can tell you have an understanding of the history of your city. You're sincere, and even the, what's going on in Texarkana. So we thank you for your service. We thank you for all that you are doing. Please extend the greetings to the believers there, and may Allah continue to bless you and the work that you're striving to do.
Yes, sir. And I certainly will extend the greetings to the believers and thank you for all the work that you do, Student Minister Willie.
Striving to,
Assalamu
my
alaikum.
brother. Alaykum salam, and all praises due to Allah. And for those of you who are watching, I don't know about you all, but once again, we had another dynamic guest, and I love what the history that I've learned, how the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's son traveled there in Texarkana, and they even hear the connection between here in New Orleans with Sister Yolanda and Brother James. So, but we still have one more guest, and we have our brother who is right up, I would say, like in northern Louisiana, Brother William X, and he'll be joining us for the second half of this interview series where we are interviewing those who are members of the Southwest Student Ministry class under the leadership of Brother Abdul Halim Muhammad. We'll be right back.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Muhammad's economic blueprint, the collective power of our dollars to build a future for ourselves. With 5 cents a day, 35 cents a week, $1.40 a month, and $18.20 a year multiplied by 16 million wage earners would give us $291 million in 1 year. Everyone can give 35 cents a week as an investment in our future. Donate now and see what our pennies, nickels, and dimes can accomplish. Visit economicblueprint.org.
And we're back, brothers and sisters, to continue this interview series on here on I Have a Testimony with members of the student ministry class. Next up, we have our brother William X. Assalamu alaikum, Brother William. Like he may be having some technical difficulties. There he is. Assalamu alaikum, my brother. Can you hear me? Brother William? It's looking like he's having some technical difficulties on his part. But as we get things worked out, we pray that you all find it, you all have found, finding, let me say this part, these interview series to be beneficial, and we thank you all for your support, and we can continue to support. And what we'll do right now until our brother gets on, brother, to the producer, you think we can run through some of those announcements that we normally would go through? All right, so we'll come up with some of these announcements so we get our brother back situated. Normally we always ask here in the city of New Orleans, we are chipping away at our mortgage elimination, right? And so we're asking those of you, we started off asking like 1,400 people to give $100. Now we're down to like 1,200 people, but we'll continue to keep chipping away at it, chipping away at it, chipping away at it. Whatever you have that you can give, we will greatly support, we will greatly appreciate. And you see how you can do so there by looking at the flyer. The second thing that we have going on here in the city of New Orleans is this prostate free screening that we've been able to, because of the charitable donation of a brother here in our city. We thank him for that. We have been able to provide screening at no cost by medical professionals here in the city and even outside of the state of Louisiana for those who were interested in getting screened for prostate cancer, right? And we know that early detection also helps to increase the likelihood of people defeating that disease. And next we have up here, in the city of New Orleans, as much as it talks about murder in the city, there was a stat that came out, a paper that came out that said that there were more people in the city of New Orleans who died from fentanyl overdose than homicide. And so that information came out after Allah put it on my heart to use the talents and skills of our brother under the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Health, where our brother provides making connections and referrals to those who are struggling with whatever type of addictive behaviors, not only just drugs, it can be food, it can be a bunch of stuff. So if there's anybody that we can help, make sure you call that number and our brother Calvin will be able to help. Then as we continue to keep going forward, we started this initiative during the COVID, but if you're still in need for somebody to say a prayer for you or your family, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We will greatly appreciate it, and we'll be greatly to submit your names to our prayer group to offer a prayer for you or for your loved one. And then the other part we've been talking about, I don't know if we have the slide in regards to the sponsorships that we're soliciting. We are asking if we're developing, and I apologize for those who have reached out to us, but if you want to make a contribution to help us in this effort to keep this program that you have been finding very beneficial continuing on, it won't hurt to make a small donation. You can do it via Cash App, but also you can reach out to us as well to find out how you can take advantage of advertising, the advertising that we have, where you can get a commercial ran. We highlight your business. And if you're interested, what you will do, you will send a email to us, and can the producer, can we bring that up if you can? Our brother behind the scenes, we want to salute our brother Muhasi, right? So he's going to pull it up, but you can see as our guest is working out the technical difficulties, but you'll see the actual video that we have, where if you are interested in promoting your business, we look forward to helping to get the word out, where you can actually find out, and you'll see this ad that'll be coming up momentarily. And also, as we're waiting for our brother William X to see if he's able to rejoin us. But I really enjoyed hearing from Brother James from Texarkana, right? And the fact to hear the history of the city, and to know that history. One of the things I always try to encourage people in different cities is that if there's a, you can even do this in your families, but if there is a, I'll make this point after we show this video. We'll be right back. And so we're back. And as I was saying, if there are those in your mosque, your study group, your church, or even your family, some of the elders in our community, we say the pioneers, hook up a camera and interview them to see, to record that history. So we're back with our brother William. Assalamu alaikum, my brother.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Kareem, sir.
So let's get straight to it, my brother. As I asked our brother prior to you, can you talk to us about how you came into contact and a knowledge of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
Yes, sir. First, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness there's no God but Allah who intervened in our affairs. In the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom praise is due forever. I further bear witness that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the living and exalted Christ. And I lastly bear witness that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the Messiah and I miss today. Thank you for that question, brother. I say back in 1995, I ran across a brother who I played basketball with in high school named John Copeland. But he was John X then. And I was driving down Juella in Shreveport, Louisiana. And I seen him on the corner, suit, bow tie, clean. I said, "What's going on, John? What's going on?" And he kept saying, "What's going on, my brother?" You know, he kept saying brother, and I wasn't used to that language. And so he was like, "Well, brother, you care for a final call?" And yeah, I got a paper from him. Right, I think they were $1 then. You know, they $2 now. So, but it was $1. And he said, "Well, brother, you ever heard of Yakub?" You know, that's the first time I ever heard of, you know, Yakub. So it kind of piqued my interest. And so that was my first contact with FOI. Since that time, brother, it's not in the ranks, but I thank Almighty God Allah for brother. Really, his stand and his presence and his discipline that I saw really attracted me to what he was representing. And the second contact I had was with a brother Marvin Muhammad from Shreveport, who is the study group coordinator there. That was around the time, of the Million Man March. And I was in college at the time. And Brother Marvin was kind of speaking in different venues around the city of Shreveport. That's my hometown. And so, everybody was trying to get on the bus, And so, long story short, in college, there were some brothers trying to go to Washington, D.C., the Million Man March. And I wouldn't, I was, at the time, dating the other race, at the time. So I wasn't about the black thing, getting on the bus. But when those brothers came back from the Million Man March, brother, they talked different. There was a difference about those brothers when they came back to school. And so, I saw Brother Marvin in Shreveport selling them papers, and I came out to a meeting by the grace of Allah when they was on Juella. This was years ago. I want to say 2000. Yes, sir.
Meeting, you ended up accepting the teachings and getting registered?
Well, you know how it is when you first hear this truth. You know, you're fired up, you're excited, and you join, but you don't want to accept all the discipline. And so I did accept, but I never went to FOI class. I never, so I kind of wandered for about 3 years in the wilderness until a brother who was shot by the police in Shreveport, he was shot 8 times in the back by the police, Shreveport Police Department. And, you know, I was like, you know, man, this is terrible. And my wife at the time, you know, I was, you know, just kind of just, you know, voicing my frustration. And she was like, well, won't you do something about it? And so they had a community meeting at Winfield Funeral Home, the Nation of Islam did, and I went. And that began my, you know, proactivity of getting back into the mosque and getting back into the struggle. And once I did that, brother, you know, I never turned back, and that was in 2003. Yes, sir.
Praise be to Allah. And we know now that you and the believers there in your family have planted the flag of Islam in a city that prior to, based upon my knowledge, did not have such, right? In the place of Homer, Louisiana. Can you talk about that process? What made you decide to start doing it there, and how's it been going?
Well, brother, all praise due to Allah. My grandmother, she is from Homer, Louisiana. She left when she was 19 years old, and she moved to Shreveport, Louisiana, and married my grandfather. And so I never knew anything about Homer. My mother never brought me to Homer, but my grandmother, she has land down here, and she had land down here. So she died in 2014. And my wife, Sister Jackie, she's her father's from Homer. Now watch this story. Her father's from Homer, and she is from California. She was born in San Diego. And so a long story short, she moved to Savannah, Georgia, got her ex in Savannah. I got my ex in Shreveport. And she moved back here because of death in the family, and she was looking for the mosque. And someone told her that it's a brother over there that's a Muslim, that's a barber at the barbershop, and talking about me. And he could tell you what the mosque is. So that was my first time meeting Sister Jackie. That was in 2011. And so when her and I got married, we moved to Homer. And so just kind of as a soldier, you know, soldiering the final call, looking at the condition of the people, as Jesus says in the scripture, that when he looked at the condition of the people, and he was moved with compassion. And so I was moved with compassion to do something. So we started having study group out of my home, and that didn't last long because, you know, items started coming up missing. So I was looking for a building, and we found a building by the grace of Allah. It was in much need of repair. It's ready really for demolition. But Allah blessed us to see the potential in the building, as well as the people. And the place, the location where the building is, the study circle, is called Buck Bottom. It's Buck Bottom in Homer, Louisiana. Think about that, Buck Bottom. And so we're always taught that we should be a light. The Nation of Islam, we should be a light in that community. And so since then, we've been growing by the grace of Allah. We're almost at study group status by the grace of Allah. And Allah has blessed us to make friends, across Christian religious lines. We have created a strong base of friends and amongst the community. Yes, sir.
Beautiful, man, beautiful. And that's a mighty task to go into a city where Islam is not present and begin to start, in a sense, like the God in the originator, that Adam starts to start moving and rotating in that darkness, and we get that first sign of life. What have been some of the lessons that you have learned, during this whole process?
Yeah, you were kind of breaking up, sir.
Yeah, I was saying,
I didn't hear all of it.
what have been some of the lessons that you have learned in this process of establishing Islam in that city?
What I learned in the process?
Yes, what are you learning in this process?
Oh, all praise due to Allah.
So we're working as soon as our brother gets back on. But it's interesting how in this small city that he and his wife, both members of the Nation of Islam, end up meeting, and now they become husband and they become wife, right? So it's a fascinating thing to be able to hear those stories. And I've talked about, for those who may not be aware, in the Nation of Islam, you have the mosque, which has to, in order to become a mosque, need at least 40 or above, at least 40 people. And then you have a study group, right? Have a study group, I don't forgot the exact number, but I know to be a study circle, you need at least 10. So our brother is there, and they are study group status, which means there are at least 10 believers, or registered members of the Nation of Islam, who have subscribed to the teachings of the Most High Elijah Muhammad. So our brother is back. Well, here we go. What were some of his lessons?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. What are some of the lessons you've learned?
Yes, sir. Well, some of the lessons that I learned, dear brother, was patience.
Mm.
Patience. Allah's time is not our time, and no matter how bad we want it, until Allah put His hands on it, then that's the time. So patience, really, really love. Love. I always had a love for my brothers and sisters, because my father was a pastor, Christian pastor, and just watching him, he would have the bull horns on the van and go around preaching and teaching in the community. And I saw him do that, and I saw some of the struggles that he experienced as a minister, and just love, love for my family. This work, if you don't have balance, the balanced family and the mission, it could cause a strain, a rift in your family. And even though my children are not in the mosque helping their father, I pray to Allah that one day that someone would give them a word, like someone gave me a word that would spark something in them, that they would come, help their father, help a man like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. That man has changed my life. I wouldn't have the family that I have now if it wasn't for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I would be dead or in jail, or insane if it wasn't for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so, those things that, a good, strong family life, love for my brothers, and patience. Yes, sir.
Mm, beautiful. And for those who may be watching this broadcast, who may be in the Houma area and want to come and participate and find you all, how could they do so?
Uh, they can go to my social media page, William X Boyd, on Facebook, or you could pull up, at 243 North 4th Street, Homer, Louisiana, 71040. Or you could email me at williamx112675 at yahoo.com for more information.
Mhm. And beautiful. I know you had the opportunity to hear the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan deliver the last Savior's Day address. What were some of your takeaways?
Um, when you talk about war, uh, I have a little ex-military experience, JROTC and an ex-military experience. So when you talk about war, you're talking about arms. You're talking
Mhm.
about weapons. You're talking about, uh, infantry. So, when he really laid down the gauntlet uh, this past Savior's Day against Satan. And I'm all boxing. I like MMA. I like basketball. I'm just a competitor. But to see the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, with the word from his mouth, destroy Satan. It's just it's wonderful to see and live in a time where you are seeing Satan be uprooted. And so, this Savior's Day was really one of my greatest Savior's Day because we had a brother who to recite Savior's Day uh, Friday evening, and he was able to graduate and walk, uh, Saturday at the graduation. So it really wasn't about me, and that's another thing. That's another takeaway from being in a position of leadership. You strive to be more selfless, think less of yourself. You you pour more into others, and so that's what really I saw in Savior's Day. That brother, when his face, to graduate, because he was on it. He was trying. Man, I'm ready. I'm ready. And he recited at the coffee table, and he was, by the grace of Allah, he was able to walk uh, in at Savior's Day. Yes, sir.
Get ready to close. I'd like to close out on this question with you. I ask many people because I try to extract from people testimony that, as the Bible says, the dragon was slain by the blood of the lamb and the power of their testimony. If you had to testify before the world of a quality of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, which quality would you choose to testify of and why?
Well, brother Willie, the quality that I would testify right now from Mount Everest would be the word brother. The word brother. Um, as a young man, I have three sisters. I'm the only son, and as a young man, I would pray that God would bless my mother to have another son, so that I would have a brother. And so brotherhood to me is very, very important. The strength of the brotherhood, making word bond. Uh, this is that the term brother. I remember Brother Jabril said it. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan defines the word brother, and so brother you know, he's a brother. You know, he's a brother to us. You know, I mean, more than that, but yeah, brother. And so the brotherhood, you know, of the Nation of Islam, I love the brotherhood. That's what attracted me to the Nation of Islam. You know, the camaraderie. You know, the men. You know, because I didn't see that in the church. I didn't see strong men in the church. I didn't see that. I saw men, but I didn't see strong men. I seen strong women, and so that's what drew me to the Nation of Islam. The strength of the minister, the power of the word that makes you get up, you know, and move. You know, so he's definitely a general. You know, he's able to command the respect of many men. There are many men that follow the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that's not in the ranks, but he could, with a word, command those men, and they'll straighten up. So that would be a quality that I would say, brother.
Beautiful, man. And we thank you, Brother William, for the work that you are doing there. Thank your wife for the work, you know, that she's helping to do there, and all of the believers. So if you can, on my behalf and on behalf of those here at the NNV Network, and I have a testimony show, please give them the greetings and let them know that we are praying for your continued success, and y'all continue to steady grow as you all are doing.
Yes, sir. And thank you, Brother Willie, because you're one of our #1 supporters down here. So
Praise
thank
be
you,
to
dear
Allah,
brother.
Well, I'm gonna have to come up there, man.
Yes,
We'll have
sir.
to talk. We'll come out, get with some brothers. I'll talk to the captain, and we'll see about coming up there, man, to do our part to help you. But anything that you need, man, don't hesitate to call me. Thank you, brother, for helping to make history in the place where it was no Islam, but you were there. So thank you. May Allah continue to bless you. Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak.
Wa alaikum salam. Ramadan Kareem, sir.
And for those who are here watching us, we continue to thank you for your support. We also ask that you continue to support us as we showed earlier, and tune in as we continue these interviews. May Allah continue to bless each and every one of you all. Assalamu alaikum. And to those who are participating in the fast, Ramadan Mubarak.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.